So here in this gathering, I would like to offer for your consideration these tentative principles, which, by the way, in another meeting tomorrow we can discuss. But I think even our friends are not going to be bored by seeing the unique kind of a structure that our society has begun to have. These principles are no dicta of mine. I have been merely the mirror which has tried to reflect what seemed to me the group opinion about these matters. And here they are. 12 points to assure our future. A new crop of 12, by the way. 12 points to assure our future. An Alcoholics Anonymous tradition of relations. Our AA experience has taught us that each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is but a small part of a great whole. AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. Hence, our common welfare must come first, but individual welfare follows closely afterward. That, you can see, is almost a self-evident proposition. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. And some may ask, is this group conscience a reliable thing? Yes, in the long run, I think it is far more reliable than the inspired guidance of the few. And little by little, we of AA are finding out that that is a possibility. That we do not need any government here of people. We need a government of principles, which principles are of God. Our membership ought to include all who suffer alcoholism. Hence, we may refuse none who wish to recover. Nor ought AA membership ever depend upon money or conformity. Any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. That is a very large order, and there we differ from most organizations. While membership rules among groups differ, most of the groups are today abandoning them entirely, saying to all who suffer, come on in and try, if that is what you wish to do. You're a member if you say you're a member. And any 2 or 3 of you who get together and wish to call yourselves members of Alcoholics Anonymous may also call yourselves an AA group, regardless of how much you happen to agree at the moment with our program. Provided, of course, you have no other affiliation. We wouldn't want the Republican AAs and the Democratic AAs and the Catholic AAs and the Protestant AAs. No. We feel that the name Alcoholics Anonymous should pertain strictly to AA activity. With respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concerning the welfare of neighboring groups also, those groups ought to be consulted. And no group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole without conferring with the trustees of the Alcoholic Foundation. Well, that simply means that as the group is greater than the individual, so are all the groups put together greater than the single group. And in affairs which concern everyone, no one ought to feel privileged to take the bit in his mouth and run with it. Each Alcoholics Anonymous group ought to be a spiritual entity, having but one primary purpose, that of carrying his message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Well, that is a simple tale. It's the question of shoemaker stick to your leg. There was a time when I felt that we groups might go into education to research into this and that. But I think most of us are becoming satisfied that as groups, we should stick to our one primary purpose, that while many individual members will surely and should be called to these other enterprises, we had best confine ourselves to the one thing that we seem to do well. Problems of money, property, and authority may easily divert us from our primary spiritual aim. We think, therefore, that any considerable property of genuine use to AA should be separately incorporated and managed, thus dividing the material from the spiritual. An AA group as such should never go into business. Secondary aids to AA, such as clubs or hospitals which require much property or administration, ought to be incorporated and so set apart that if necessary they may be freely discarded by the group. Hence such facilities ought not use the AA name. Their management should be the sole responsibility of those people who financially support them. For clubs, AA managers are usually preferred, but hospitals, as well as other places of recuperation, ought to be well outside AA and medically supervised. While an AA group may cooperate with anyone, such cooperation ought never go so far as affiliation or endorsement, actual or implied. An AA group can bind itself to no one. 7. The AA groups themselves ought to be fully supported by the voluntary contributions of their own members. We think that each group should soon achieve this ideal, that any public solicitation of funds using the name Alcoholics Anonymous is highly dangerous, whether by groups, clubs, hospitals, or other outside agencies, that acceptance of large gifts from any source or of contributions carrying any obligation whatever is unwise. Then, too, we view with much concern those AA treasuries which continue beyond prudent reserves to accumulate funds for no stated AA purpose. Experience has so often taught us that nothing can so surely destroy our spiritual heritage as futile disputes over property, money, and authority. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional. We define professionalism as the occupation of counseling alcoholics for fees or hires. Yet we may employ alcoholics where they are going to perform those services for which we might otherwise have to engage non-alcoholics. Such special services may be well recompensed, but our usual AA 12-step work is never to be paid for. 9. Each AA group needs the least possible organization. Rotating leadership is best. The small group may elect its secretary, the large group its rotating committee, and the groups of a large metropolitan area their central or intergroup committee, which often implies a full-time secretary. The trustees of the Alcoholic Foundation, who, by the way, since have become the General Service Committee for Alcoholics Anonymous, the trustees of the foundation are, in effect, our service committee. They are the custodians of our AA tradition and the receivers of voluntary contributions by which we maintain our General Service Office at New York. They are authorized by the groups to handle our overall public relations, and they guarantee the integrity of our principal newspaper, the AA Grapevine. All such representatives are to be guided in the spirit of service, for true leaders of AA are but the trusted and experienced servants of the whole. They derive no authority from their titles. They do not govern. Universal respect is the key to their usefulness. No AA group or member should ever, in such a way as to implicate AA, express an opinion on outside controversial issues, such as those of politics, alcohol reform, or sectarian religion. The Alcoholics Anonymous groups oppose no one. Concerning such matters, they can express no views whatever. Our relations with the general public should be characterized by personal anonymity. We think AA ought to avoid sensational advertising. Our names and pictures as AA members ought not be broadcast, filmed, or publicly printed. Our public relations should be guided by the principle of attraction. rather than promotion. There is never need to praise ourselves. We feel it better to let our friends recommend it. And finally, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the principle of anonymity has an immense spiritual significance. It reminds us that we are to place principles before personality, that we are to actually practice a genuine humility. This to the end that our great blessings may never spoil us, that we shall forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over all.